The purpose of this video is to show you how to convert frequency into the amount of time between events. In our particular case, we're going to take the frequency of the spark tape timer and find out from that how much time there is between dots on the spark tape. First thing we need to know is that the unit we will always use for frequency is hertz, and we abbreviate that Hz, which is cycles per second. In other words, it's the number of events you have every second. In our case, it's the number of dots per second. You could have a vibrating spring and have a hertz. You have electricity that has hertz, which is how many times the voltage goes back and forth per second. But in our case, it's just going to be the number of events or the number of dots every second. So for example, if you had a spark timer set at 5 hertz, which we can't do on ours, that would mean you would have 5 dots every second. Well, if you think about that for a second, if you have 5 dots for every 1 second, that means every second you get 5 dots. So I can rewrite that. I'm not saying these are equal, but that having 5 dots in 1 second means in 1 second I get 5 dots, which means it takes a fifth of a second to get each dot. So I can think of in terms of how many dots I have for every 1 second, or how many seconds I have for every dot, and they're just the reciprocal. So you can see all you have to do to change your hertz, which is how many dots per second, change that into how much time you have between dots, is you just take the reciprocal. So it's really pretty simple, but this is why it works. Which means that in this case I would have 1/5 or 0.2 seconds between the dots. If I had 20 hertz, that would imply I have 1/20, which equals 0.05 seconds between dots. And that's how it always works. Our lab data will always set the hertz at 10, but when you do your worksheet problems, I'll pick lots of different values for your frequency. And again, the hertz is the label, and it's the label of the frequency, which is defined as how often something's happening per unit time. In our case, hertz is always how many times something happens per second.